this is just a little sketch I did of the scene that I'm going to paint, just to give me an idea if it would work out. It's a small little sketch. It's only like 4 by 4. Kind of a thumbnail, but a little bigger. And this here is showing, I don't want to erase it because it'll be white if I do, but I've decided to move this tree up just a little bit higher so that it's not completely parallel with this tree, even though it really is in the photo. I'm going to move that up a bit, which means I have to move its shadow or its reflection up a little bit as well. That's why you see 2 different reflections here. So I will correct that when I actually do the painting. But that's why it's good to do the drawing first, because I wouldn't have known that until after I started painting it. Probably, I might have. It's possible, because I do sketch it out a little bit on the canvas first with my paint and my paintbrush. And then I have another chance to take a look at it and see what I think. I have paint on here from a previous excursion into the woods, which I will be covering up. And the rest of this will get covered up, all these little splotches and imperfections. So this is just barely scratched in. There's a big tree here. There's a tree bush there, or leaves and trunk of a tree in the back. Another tree coming this way. Some branches from the tree here. You can't really see it. Reflections from the trees are here. And I'm going to block them in now that I know, because I've just kind of scratched it in with my brush. I know approximately where they are. So the next thing I'm going to do is block those in with basic colors that give me a generalized idea of the color that I have in my painting. I'll go in later and change those. For instance, there's a tree here that has more red in it than anything. It has some little bits of green here and there because it is partly green, but when you step back from it, it's kind of a reddish color. This one is more of a greenish color. When you squint your eyes, this tree is darker than this tree. This tree is closer up. So we will take that and squint our eyes and come up with some basic colors, what color we think that is, what color we think this reflection is here, and just fill them in solidly. And then we're going to be going back in and putting in all the little details of the foggy little trees in the background, and putting in some of the greens with the reds, and going in and putting in the sky holes last. All those little, the branches, all those little details will be last. My sky is the tiniest little bit of burnt sienna with the tiniest little bit of ultramarine blue and white. I'll tell you the one thing I really hate when I start painting is the fact that I really need to paint the edges, and I can't stand doing it. I don't know why, it's just a time waster, but it needs to be done. This is just going to be scrubbed in quickly. I have this very thinly painted in here. I'm squinting my eyes, and I see the water down below this line here is just slightly darker. Slightly. Very, very minorly darker. I'm going over the edge where the tree will be. 1, I want to cover that line. 2, I want to bring the tree back over it again. I like a little bit of this color coming through, believe it or not, but I'll probably take it out. You can see a little bit of the burnt sienna under there, and it's kind of pretty. Okay, now I'm going to mix just a little darker version of that, just a tad darker, and come right through here. This is a very strong Escada brush. made a regular board bristle. Does a very good job for me. I'm going to stop talking and I will voice over. That way I can speed this up as much as I want to. Changing the tone just a little bit as I get to the edges where it's starting to slowly get darker. This is where some of the shadows will start and some of the reflections. I have to pick colors that I think are going to represent the majority of the color that's in this area. So I may go back in and put some darks and lights in there, but the majority of that area is this muted tone. I do a little cross hatching to kind of blend it in. Again, most of this will be gone over again. It depends. I'll have to see how I like the way it looks. I may actually like some of those colors shining through, because whatever shines through still has paint on it. This whole canvas is covered, which is why I like to put a base color down to start with. The left side tree is a little darker, so its reflection is a little darker. These choices lay down the foundation for the entire painting. You've come up with your concept, you've gone out, you've taken your photos, you've decided how you would like to crop the photo, what you want to leave in and take out, what you want to emphasize, anything you want to move around. That's a lot of work right there before you've ever put paint on any canvas. Here I'm getting a little confused where I want this to be, because I'm looking at the original and then I'm looking at the one that I changed. This happens sometimes. So I just put a little water on my brush and wipe that spot out. Trying to figure out where exactly is the line, the edge, where the water meets the grass. Sorry, I'm right in the way here. But I have to paint the side of this canvas. Such a pain in the butt. It's not really necessary at this point to put these darks in, but I just tried it out to see what would happen. I'll be doing that in the second phase. The reason I'm showing you so much of this is this is the majority of the painting. Yes, the rest is all detail. Choosing the colors, organizing the painting, fixing your focal point. Once you have that, the rest is going to flow. The painting will never be good if you don't get this part right to begin with. Again, the sky is put in very lightly, very little paint, because I have to go back and put these trees over it, and I don't want a big glob of paint that will not allow me to put down a darker color. I will go back into the tree and add sky holes after I go over the whole painting again with my second layer. To blue, a little more of my yellow into my blue, making it a darker green. What am I painting there? That is technically the bottom of that tree reflection, which I will blend in better later on my second go around. There's the grass underneath the tree. Whenever you're laying a color down, if you see it in another spot, put it down. Save yourself time. You see just a little bit of color change shows you the difference between one tree and the next. I think I'm going to go up there in that tree that's farther back and add a little bit of purple into that to push it back a little bit more. So I have that lighter green on my brush. I go in, I put in other areas that have the lighter green. Really darks look lighter in the water when they're reflecting. Really lights look a little darker in the water when they're reflecting. But for now, we're just going with the same color so that we get it in there. I can adjust those tones a little later. Just playing with edges here. It's not really necessary at this point. That tree on the right will have to be put in much thicker paint. It's thicker paint. There's a beautiful light coming back there. Again, I'm adjusting my painting the way I want it to be. There's trees back there you can barely see. That's too dark, so I lightened it up a little. There's more blue in the back. Not as much yellow showing through because you don't see yellow when it's far away. Adding another layer, a little bit more detail on top. Just keep on adding layer after layer. Put in some sky holes next. I still don't have this tree layered with a lot of thickness, so I will put on pretty much solid paint as my final strokes with a brush or even a palette knife. You can see here where I have lighter on top, darker on the bottom, and medium in the middle, which gives that tree a round look. And then I'll be adding a little color to the lavender in the back tree so that it recedes. So coming along step by step. So I'm putting in sky holes. When the sky holes are very close to the edge of the tree or the leaves, they can be closer to the sky color, but when they're in the center, they need to be a little darker so that it doesn't look like a white speckled polka dot in the middle of the tree. I'm just going to reinforce some of these branches. Yes, I'm moving around a lot because I want you to see things I can't show you if I set this camera down. There's going to be quite a bit of them, but just show you these few for now so you have an idea of what it is I'm going to do. And I'm going to take a bigger brush and just go swipe, 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 down, 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 and then across. And that gives you that look of reflections. They are flat, as opposed to right above it where you will have some actual thickness, a relief you would call it, where there's actually some thick leaves. Underneath, it's all flatter. Putting in colors and reflections down here, and putting in colors and reflections down here. Lots of pretty colors. And that makes the painting. See, that's what makes it look like water. Just a little left to do here and there. That is best done with a palette knife. Because I want you to understand that you are, in fact, in the water here. Okay. But that this is the leaves from up above. So here I'm going to hit it with just a little more yellow. But I want the sun shining on part of it. Over here, I've hit this with just a little light on the edge where the sun is hitting it. It's coming up in the morning over here. So all of these beautiful colors are coming this way toward us. Put lots of little dots and dashes here and there. Because these trees have dropped leaves, some of the stuff that you're seeing is actually sitting on top of the water. Don't get too bogged down. Put a little bit of this here and there on the grasses because they have leaves that have fallen as well. Okay guys, this is as finished as it's going to get. How did I finish it? Well, I added a little bit of depth inside the tree so that it gave it some dimension as you feel like the trunk part of the tree is deeper. Inside there, it's darker. The sun's not getting in there as much, and that makes the whole tree look a little bit more three-dimensional. I also just softened the edge on the inside of the tree here, except down here where it's close to us. That's a sharper edge. So that kind of gives a suggestion that part of it is farther away or that there's more fog on it. The same thing I did on the top tree all the way over there. Things I did were, for instance, this tree right here is lighter on top, of course, where the light is hitting it, and darker underneath it. As you go farther back, you see there are some suggestions of some trees back there that you can barely see. And as they come closer, they get a little darker and a little darker. All the way up to the front where you are seeing full color and full clarity. I threw some little flowers on the Bottlebrush tree because I think I identified it as a willow, but it's not. It's a Bottlebrush tree. And put some color in the water in the front, showing us what's going on with this beautiful cypress tree, which is one of the only trees around here that changes colors in the winter time, being Florida. Made sure all of my reflections underneath the tree were reasonably accurate, and threw in some little highlights here and there in the water. Made sure that I have lighter light coming through here and here as the light is hitting it, and then darker underneath the tree where it's throwing a shadow over here and underneath right here. So those are the ways that I have tried to give this painting some dimension, which is what you have to have if you're painting a painting and you want it to look realistic. It's still impressionistic. You can't pick out any one particular leaf on a tree or any particular, I don't know, blade of grass, but the strokes intimate grass and leaves, bushes, shadows, reflections, and highlights. Hope y'all enjoyed this, everyone. Join me again for another one. And remember, you can paint too.